We then we carted all the customer cards out of there, and we did it down on a Sunday so that the unions, elevator operators and so on wouldn't be obstructing us. And but when I went down there first with Harry to tell him it was closing, I had this nice session with the guy that owned the building, who was the son of the guy who rented it to Grandpa in the first place, And I said, I'm sorry, that we're not giving you the notice that's specified here. Oh, he says, don't worry about that. He says, you've never had a better tenant. He says, the Brooks Appliance Company has just been the outstanding tenant in all our properties all these years, that never missed their rent on time, never gave us any trouble at all. It also said that you would return the premises to the condition you found them in when you took them, and we had all these fitting rooms erected and stuff. He says, don't worry about that. He says, we'll tear that out for you. Just as nice as he could be. It could have been Brastard,
Well, sure.
And
Now, your dad ran the New York office?
yes, and Los Angeles. He went out there in 1938. I just found a snapshot in Marshall, Michigan. My father and my brother Brooksy and me. Lenny wasn't born, or she was a tiny baby. And we were in our little 3-year-old clothes, and standing out in front of this house on Prospect Street, which we rented, which is right below Grandpa's on the corner of Grand and Prospect on the west side. The red brick place. I think one of the Beggs lived there not too long ago. Jeff. He's isn't there anymore, but
okay, not Leon Tolhurst.
Across the street from it.
Oh, all right, okay.
On the west side.
All right.
And what happened was that Alex came to Marshall to learn the business for a few months before going off to New York. When he came here, it was understood that they was going to go on to New York and start a branch, which he did in 1938 after a sojourn in Marshall of 3 or 4 months.
Learning, learning
6
business.
months, I don't know how long it was. And the business in New York was quite successful. It took them maybe a year or maybe 9 months or something to get in the black, and then it stayed in the black until it was closed in 1964.
How did...
And they were charging
the
2 or 3 times as much as they were charging in Marshall for the same thing. And they were running their own ads.
By mail order?
Well, they were running well, some of it was, but they did a lot of personal fittings in New York.
Okay.
And they ran the ads in the Daily News, very expensive ads, which worked. And so we lived in Pelham from 1938 to 43. And then in 43 we moved out to Westport, Connecticut, and we were there from 43 to 49. And 1949, or 1949, they decided to open an office in Los Angeles since it works in LA, and since there's so many old people in Los Angeles, maybe it would work there too. And it never did work in Los Angeles.
Too spread out.
I don't know.
Well,
My father claimed that Grandpa got cold feet and didn't give it the seat money that he should have.
well, this is getting a lot later, too. This is 1950.
Yeah.
This is
49, 50.
I got left here quite a while.
But that was closed about 56. It went about 6 years in Los Angeles. And that was about the same time that my parents were divorced, so that dovetailed nicely. And Bud came out there and closed the office. And this was also about the time that our grandmother had a stroke, and she died in 55. And she was out there in 53, 54, and my parents were not getting along at all. And he was out drinking and stuff a lot of the time. And they stayed. Grandma had some kind of a stroke.
On the airplane?
Oh, I don't know, bursitis in her shoulder, I thought it was in. And they So they holed up at the Huntington Hotel for some time, HC and Gladys. And we saw a lot of them that year. And then he was running the Brooks Appliance Company from the Huntington Hotel. He had the checkbook there. And he was mailing the paychecks back. And,
Oh, geez.
yeah. Yeah, I think, I'm not sure of this, but it seems like maybe he went back to Marshall and, to conduct business or something, and came out again. I don't know, I don't remember exactly. But poor Grandma didn't last very long after that. She died at 55. And so that must have been 53 or 4, I don't know.
Now, when did Chuck start, or Tom, when did Tom start his little?
Well, I think that Tom and Chuck and Bud all worked down there before the war together, say from 1930. Bud, of course, was born in 1912, so he would have been
Tom
18 years old in 1930. So say 1931, 32, 30. In that period, they were all working down there together. And a lot of those photographs were said to be Tom or Chuck, although those torsos.
Oh, okay, all right.
I don't know. There was one of Lou's sons, I don't know which,
Okay.
that posed for them. And then, of course, they started cheating, and they started the business on their own, or one or both of them. I think it was just one of them. I think it was not the one that went in the stagecoach business. It's the other one.
Tom, it's Tom.
Tom had the stagecoach.
No, I don't know. Tom went in the trust business.
Yeah, but and according to all the old documents and letters from Grandpa to his sisters, Lou financed it. So he was underwriting competition for his own meal ticket there, and they went out to San Diego, and that's where they were operating.
Well, one of them,
Marshall Trust or Marshall Rupture Company.
one of them started up. He had the garage of the old Page Buggy Company. It said the something or other trust company on it.
Okay.
I saw a picture of that. Right here, right on
Yeah.
right on the way to the
Yeah.
on the way to the country
Yeah,
club.
yeah.
Oh, that'd fry your ass,
Oh, okay.
Right.
It's furious.
Yeah.
But you don't know how much Lou did it just to provoke him, how much it was a real money-making attempt, I don't know. I think it was some of each, because Lou was always teasing Grandma. Grandma couldn't stand it. And he'd blow his cork, and Lou looked at that, and they were a pair. Yeah. But there's other things to discuss about this. It's just endless. I mean, this is more than we've already said more than anyone would ever want to know.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
But you get into what is the case for the Brooks Appliance? Is it efficacious? And does it have a place in modern times? And the answer is yes. It should be possible to make a go of it now. But it isn't because of the economics of the thing, and the stonewall from the medical profession. But it should be, because there's lots of geriatrics for whom it's the best thing. It is the best treatment. Still, it would be. If there was one, they can't get one anymore. But
Who's still in business?
very few. I don't know many.
There used to be Webb. Who is Webb?
Oh, that's a long time ago. They've been
Okay. Who did you buy out in New York?
Rice. William R. Rice. MS Rice, William R. Rice, I don't know. Rice Company in Adams, New York. They've been gone from now for years.
You bought.
We were buying rubber
cushions.
parts from them, no. We bought the rubber oven and the apparatus that makes our rubber pieces.
Okay.
And because we couldn't procure them from them anymore, we had to cook our own. So we did. And then we also cut out another company called Enduro Rubber Company that we were buying them from in Ohio. Once we got the apparatus, we could make them all. you know, these things extended our life quite a while with various things like that. But you get so small, and you get down to about 6 people, and
Every person's terribly important.
that's right. And the chain is very fragile, and you have emergencies all the time. And your suppliers aren't so interested in you because you're not buying the quantities that you once did, and everything is kind of feeds on itself. But the payroll doesn't stop, and nowadays even 6 or 7 people is a large payroll. And with this business, in going out of business, you also had to judge what's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow going to be. If your customer base continues to dwindle, then all those last-minute stock-up sales are also going to. You're not going
Right.
to get that flash to the extent that you might have if you closed sooner. And I must say that in retrospect, I think we did it exactly right, because we used all our inventory, and somehow or other we kept our people working up to the end, and it couldn't have been any better. If we waited longer, there wouldn't have been that many people buying 6 and 12 and 4 and something at the end.
Sure.
And we weren't making any money if we didn't quit. So the year before we quit, we just traded dollars. There was no profit. It was all right if you got a salary, but the forecast was lousy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I tried for many years. First, I was down there 25 years. I would say for the first 15 or so, I was really very energetic, trying new things, and mailing letters cold turkey to geriatric doctors. I forgot the name of them, gerontologists, and buying lists, and I
Sure.
changed ads. One thing gave us a big lease. A big extension of our lease was changing the minimum ad from a 2-inch to 1-inch, which halved the cost per ad, but did not have the response. It only reduced the response by 35 or 40% instead of 50%, and that gave us quite a lot of breathing room, and I'm very pleased about that. Another thing I did that was very important was I returned to the original formula that Grandpa had with respect to a discount for buying a second one. Throughout the first 70 years or so of his tenure there, he had a deal that after 2 or 3 months after you bought your first one, you got a letter offering you a spare with a substantial discount, like 25% off. Even though you don't need one now, you want to be sure that you have spare and so forth. And a lot of people took it. And the last 5 or 6 years that Grandpa was running the business, he did a terrible thing. I mean, what proved to be a terrible thing, in that he felt that he wasn't getting enough new customers, which is true, to sustain the business. So he would freeze the first order price and keep raising the reorder price. And so that's what he did, and it didn't work at all. They didn't, apparently, they didn't much care about the first order price was. But with the reorder price, he wasn't getting the second orders like he did through his earlier years. And I plotted them very elaborately. Out of all the first orders, how many would buy a second one? Of those, how many would buy a third? Of those, how many would buy a fourth? And of course, out of the first orders, how many would never buy a second one? And it took years of experience to see what was happening. Because what I wanted was early warning when the advertising money wasn't worth it anymore.
Sure.
And when I went down there, they had been feeding off their backlog for a long time. The first order effort had been minimal, and they were living off their reorders from a dwindling mailing list. Like in the 1950s, mid-50s, their regular mailing list to reorder customers was 230,000, 250,000 pieces. And by the time I got there, it was down to 50,000 pieces. And so I stepped up the new customer thing tremendously, and was able to with certain economies in the ads, like cutting down half the size. But what was happening was the old timers were dying and dropping off the other end. The old tried and true proven wearers were dropping away while the new ones were being generated, and the net result was flat. But I did have enough of a handle on it that I could see that whereas the first year that I was down there, 75% of the reorders were coming from people who had been first obtained more than 5 years earlier. And when I left, 75% of the reorders were coming from people who had been first obtained in the previous 5 years. So that wonderful old mailing list was vanishing. And it was a wonderful thing when it was built up to a huge level, because then you could just do nothing for years and be profitable.
You bought that gal in Albion. You were
Yes.
hoping to get
Yeah,
expand the business.
that was a good deal. It was a very good deal. We did. Well, she only had 3 or 4 big customers, but they went on long enough to more than make worthwhile. I paid her $20,000 was all. And we were doing a lot of mailing for the Photo Marketing Association in Albion and the Star Commonwealth,
Okay.
basically. Who was the other letter shop customer? Can't think.
It started with a P.
Well, PMA was the big one.
Yeah.
And this went on for 10, 12, 14 years, and eventually came to an end. One by one. Oh, Albion College was another one.
Oh, geez.
We were mailing catalogs for them. We picked up an occasional thing. We got a General Motors contract one time for mailing some kind of a golf promotion thing they had. All the dealerships in the United States we mailed to. The letter shop, of course, the girls that did that came over from Albion and we got on our payroll, and they also did our Brits Appliance mailing.
Mm-hmm.
And they made better use of our equipment. We had some inserters and balers and things, and it was a very very good thing from a profit and loss standpoint. It was, but it died, and it died. I think mostly because of the advances in laser addressed machines and stuff. These people got more modern. They got so they're targeting their mail better. And we didn't have the state of the art.
I know that stuff comes to you now, the catalogs, and it's got your name right on the front.
Mm-hmm.
God knows which ordered last time. So.
Well, other people had the investment and did it better, cheaper. But we were doing it basically in a 1850 way with a lot of hand work and
Sure.
low wages, and it worked, and it was very satisfactory to them and us for a long time. It was 12, 14 years of it before it sputtered and it came to an end. You know, those things are awful when you're down to 2 people, 3 people, and
Yeah.
you have to keep the person busy, and when a half a person, you're losing money, and unless you've got twice as much business. And I don't know, we finally cut it out. But that did extend our life quite a bit. could there be a business of this kind? Should there be today? Maybe. But I don't think, you know, we had the best mousetrap. We had 75, 80 basic sizes. We offered a custom fit. And those dies are something like $3,000 a piece now. If somebody's going to set up in the business, they never would because of the capital investment.
Sure.
So I don't think it's practicable right now. I don't think anybody else could. I don't think we could have made it if we hadn't made that investment many years earlier in the dies to cut the little pieces of metal and stuff. And if we hadn't had the best mousetrap, we wouldn't have been the last one to die. But our customized selection of sizes, we made the Cadillac, and we were the last to die, I think.
Yeah, I haven't seen the ads. Every now and then I look where you'd normally look in the back of the magazine.
Yeah, there's still some in England.
But,
Yeah. Of course, they have a great waiting list for the National Health Service operations over there too. Might have something to do with it.
who else worked there? George worked there. Charlie worked there?
No.
And Charlie had an office there.
Yeah, just because we had space and he wondered if he could have a place with a desk to pay his bills.
Sure.
He never rented or anything, he just was allowed to use it.
Sure.
Like you would have been if you'd have wanted one.
Sure. Well, yeah. Let's see, who else? My sister worked there for a little while.
Yes.
Uh, Lenny didn't work there. Brooksy didn't work there. Brooksy ever worked there?
No.
I don't remember that at
No.
all.
He worked at Shoeless once.
Oh.
Possibly.
Didn't
He
know.
finished all the roast beef that nobody ate.
I didn't. I don't remember
Yeah.
that.
Carolyn worked at Shoeless too, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were down there this morning, had a nice brunch. I was afraid I missed you, maybe, because we didn't get back till 12:30.
Oh no, I went to Jackson this morning to see my mother and go through because she reads all her bills, and everything that comes with them. She reads everything and puts it in a stack, and then I come down about once a month and we go through it. And the stuff that's generic we throw out, and the stuff that's important to keep goes in the notebook, and stuff for taxes goes in some files, and she pays the bills. And,
Okay.
yeah, so.
Okay. Well, you know, there's infinite number of stories, and like the guy that wanted eyeglasses, you know, famous one. You know, the story, the guy came in for a
Marshall.
personal fitting.
Marshall?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
And they ushered him into the fitting room, and they asked him to take off his trousers and get up on the table. He said, "Why the hell should I?" They said, "Well, we can't do anything for your rupture, sir, if we can't see rupture. I came in here for eyeglasses." They told me it was a brick place on the corner. He thought it was Sherman's.
I remember one time Grandpa had a letter, I think it was he, not you, we had a letter from Kellogg Community College, and they're looking for bids for refrigerators.
Oh.
You know, I mean, Brooks Appliance.
Yeah,
Company.
yeah, we get those calls all the time.
And you know, somebody said, I wonder if I should send them an E2, you know.
Well, the word appliance was I think it was C.E. Brooks's euphemism. Everyone else called it a truss company, and
Throw away that truss.
well,
That's what the ad said.
that was one of our slogans. But the insinuation was this is something different. It's not a truss. This is the appliance. And
There are also automatic cushions.
oh yeah, Brooks automatic air cushions. How they give with your body and all that. What's they talking about? the,
Air cushions, C.E. Brooks, automatic.
oh, no, I was gonna say was, that imitation is a sincerest form of flattery. And after they got going big time, there appeared the Physicians Appliance Company of Kansas City, Missouri, trading on that
The same name.
Yeah. And the only other one, they ever called themselves Appliance. And the only reason they did it was because Brooks had done it with success. Same thing is true with Sears Roebuck. Sears Roebuck came up with what they called the Marshall Truss. And Grandpa got Hayes and Hatch after them, and they finally enjoined them. They made them cease and desist selling something called the Marshall Truss
Wasn't there
in
some,
their catalog.
wasn't there some deal that they wanted Brooks Appliance to make their trusses?
Spiegel. Bud had a deal with Spiegel